What sugar? White sugar? Yes, sugar. No cream?
Good afternoon, everybody. Is everybody here?
We're not here. Earl called with this before.
Here.
Here.
Here, yay.
Gwen Allen Robinson here.
Ms. Robinson, good to see you.
You too.
Ernest Rouse is here.
Ms. Rouse, hello. How are you?
Fine, and you?
Good. One day we'll maybe do this in person.
J.R. Rouse here.
JR. And one day we might do this in person.
It's up, yeah, maybe.
Maybe. Then again, I don't mind living in the back cave.
Right.
In my undisclosed location. Oh my goodness.
So were you able to hear from the two of us here in the conference room?
Yeah, I can hear y'all, but I can only see one of you. Is Miss Rodriguez here?
Ron Masters.
Hey, Ronnie. Are you in the corner?
He's in timeout.
Oh, okay. I was wondering where. Oh my God. He can't be, I haven't seen him in the newspaper, so he can't be something. Must have been something he did at home. All right, so it's 2 o'clock, so I'm ready to call the meeting to. I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. I appreciate everybody being able to be here again for the February 3rd meeting of the Augusta-Richmond County Personnel Board. As we all understand, this is a hearing that we will. The only thing we have the ability to do is to conduct a hearing and either uphold or overturn the administrator's decision. Like I said, I don't know. Is Miss Rodriguez here?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Was she going? Did she intend to show or?
Is HR on? Is HR with us, Miss Rooker?
HR is here.
Hey, Felicia, have y'all heard from Mr. Rosario, or have you all seen him?
He is not logged in yet. He has not come through. I'm gonna go ahead and give him a call right now.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Is it Mr. Rosario? Is that who we're hearing?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sir, Mr. Rosario.
All right.
How many people you know at that virus?
Well, actually, quite a few, and to be honest, my wife's sister passed away the day after Christmas from that. We buried her the first Saturday in January. Then my wife's best friend, classmate, passed away about a month prior to that. My son's godmother out in Arizona passed away from that virus during the Christmas holidays. So close to the family, there's been about 3
You
deaths
know, it's out there, and they can say what they want. I know about 8 people here.
here.
that passed away. I mean, nothing else involved except that.
Except that.
So, thank you, Doc. Glad it helped.
All right, and Mr. Rosario, I'm resending him the link. He had trouble logging on, so it'll be just another moment.
Oh, that's fine.
Pretty good. Pretty good, pretty good. And you made it. Now, it looks like you're stumbling around.
Gonna sign you with Chip, so he'll know.
Yes.
Tell your name out. Hey, Chip.
Hey, Tom, how are you?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm still in secure undisclosed location.
That's for my benefit, I know. I did go half and half with you last time.
That's true.
That's moving somewhere. You was wrong. She giving up highway.
All right, and I was just able to admit Mr. Rosario.
Thank you.
Mr. Rooker, thank you very much. Mr. Rosario, are you able to hear us, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And Mr. Rosario, are you represented by counsel?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. Well, seeing that we have a quorum, I'll again welcome everyone to the February 3rd Personnel Board for Augusta Richmond County. Mr. Rosario, the role of the board is to hear both sides, hear your side and the city side, then determine, and all we have the ability to do is to determine whether or not to uphold or overturn the city's disciplinary process for you. Okay. If you do not agree with our decision, you have the ability to appeal that back to Superior Court.
Yes,
Okay. So with that said, what we do is the procedure is a lot like a courtroom. Okay. Each side will be given the opportunity for a brief opening statement. Okay. Then the city will present their case. The board may have questions for counsel for the city or for the administrator or whoever's representing the city. And at that time, they will be asked. You can cross-examine any of the city's witnesses if you choose.
I mean, you can see. The issue's not seeing, it's the sound.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
you can see we're right
at
here.
that point in time, you'll be able, and then once the city rests their case, then you will have the ability to speak for yourself, present any evidence or any witnesses to justify your position. We'll only hear relevant testimony. Anything that you can't present in evidence won't be considered. Okay. After that, the board will then go into an executive session. A motion will be asked to go into executive session. The board will then deliberate, will come out of executive session, and will render a decision. Okay.
So you say, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. So you say that you would only accept basically anything that has that's relevant to the case.
Correct.
So, for example, the last hearing that I had, basically the warden was trying to attack my character by speaking about things that had nothing to do with the case. So that's not going to be allowed, right?
The city will present whatever they feel that they have in writing to present, and any witnesses that they deem necessary, they can call. Okay. You then can use your own witnesses or anything else to refute that testimony.
Okay.
But any hearsay that you heard or anything like that is not permissible.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, with that, I'm gonna go ahead. Does anybody have anything else? With that, I'm gonna go ahead and get us started. All right. Ms. Smith, I take it you're gonna go ahead and represent the city?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Do you want to just swear in your witnesses as you need them?
Yes, I'm going to do that.
Okay. All right. That'll be fine. All right. So, and when Mr. Rosario gives his testimony, I have you swear him in then. Is that all right?
Okay, yes.
All right. Go ahead. Ms. Smith, go ahead and give us your opening real fast.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Janice Smith, and I am representing the employer, Augusta, Georgia. Today, the evidence will show that former employee Miguel Rosario was terminated from his employment as a work detail supervisor with the Richmond County Correctional Institution on November 17, 2020, after being absent from his assigned post for 3 consecutive days without authorized leave. The evidence will further show that on the first day of his absence, Mr. Rosario initially arrived at work, but left his assigned post on November 3rd, 2020, without approved leave because he did not want to work in administrative segregation during the COVID-19 pandemic. And on the following 2 days, November 4th and November 5th of 2020, Mr. Rosario later failed to report to work and he did not call in. The evidence will also show that Mr. Rosario was not on approved leave during those days, nor did he have any reason to believe that he was on approved leave. Although Mr. Rosario may attempt to convince you otherwise today, ultimately the evidence will show that it was the combination of Mr. Rosario's previous disciplinary record and the fact that he was absent from his assigned post without authorized leave for 3 consecutive days in November 2020 is the reason why he was terminated with the Richmond County Correctional Institution. Thank you.
Mr. Rosario, you can go ahead and give us your a brief opening statement, sir.
Hi, I'm Miguel Rosario, and my reasoning for this hearing, basically, I felt like I was wrongfully terminated because when I researched the regulation, it says under ND 7 to what is it? No call, no show policy. I technically showed up the first day to work. I came to work. I expressed my concerns to the supervisor at that particular time. I told, you know, after he assigned me to a certain I can't even find the word, certain duty, or, well, I expressed to him that, you know, I didn't feel comfortable working that unit where the COVID inmates were at. And I also expressed to him, you know, I'd rather go home instead of, you know, exposing myself to that situation. And his words exactly were, well, then go home if that's what you want to do. As far as the 2 no-call, no-shows, yes, I took full responsibility for those, and I let, you know, my superior know that was all my responsibility, because I let my anger get to me, and it clouded my judgment. As far as this hearing, to tell you the truth, honestly, I'm not looking to be employed again with the city of Richmond County. I'm very happy where I'm at. I'm happy where my life is going. All I wanted basically was to try to get this termination off my record. And I wanted to clarify a couple things that they were saying that I did that is not true. But as far as me being employed back with Richmond County, that's not what I want. I mean, this happened back in November. I let this be known in the last hearing that I didn't feel, and I wouldn't have felt comfortable even if I got reinstated to go back. And I mean, that's pretty much it. This whole situation has drug out a long time. I kind of didn't even want to do this hearing today, but you know, I already had it on there, so I'm going to go through it, and I don't expect much from it. I really don't expect to get a fair shake, but like I said, all I really wanted was to get the termination of my record. I did almost 5 years for the city of Richmond County, city of Augusta, and when they'll present to you the disciplinary actions that I got, just think about the things that they're saying, because one of them is going to be about an incident that I had because I didn't want to get out of uniform and wear a different hat. That's one of the reprimands that I have gotten. The second one was I got into a verbal altercation with a supervisor who threatened me and asked me to go outside and if they wanted to handle things. Now, this was a supervisor that said that to me. He threatened me. But like I said, there's a lot of things that go on in that facility. Like I said, I'm very happy where I'm at now. I'm not trying to go back. All I really wanted was my termination to be cleared out of the record. That's pretty much it.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Ms. Smith, I'll let you go ahead and present the city's case.
Okay, the employer would like to call its first witness, Mr. Odie Donald, the administrator.
Okay, that will be, yeah, go ahead without objection, and you can swear in.
Morning
Good morning, or afternoon, sir.
or afternoon, that's right. Good afternoon.
Mr. Donald, can you please raise your right hand?
I can.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Donald, for the record, please state your full name.
Odie Donald.
And where do you work?
I work for the Consolidated Government of Augusta, Richmond County.
And how long have you been employed with Augusta?
Since November 16th.
And what is your current position?
I am the administrator.
And how long have you been in that position?
Since day one, since November 16th.
As the administrator, what role do you play in the disciplinary appeals for Augusta employees?
I'm basically the reviewer of non-probationary discipline. And so when a non-probationary employee has an appeal, I review it and render a decision to uphold, modify, or reduce whatever decision has been made or recommended.
And are you familiar with the termination of the former employee Miguel Rosario?
Yes, I am. I actually brought my written decision with me to reference specific points if needed. But yes, ma'am, I'm familiar with that.
Okay. Well, I'm going to show you a document, and I'm going to share the document on the screen. And it will be Employers Exhibit A. Let me know if you can see the document.
Yes, I can. Listen, I'm about 6'9" now, so I'm gonna break my neck looking at this screen, but I also brought it with me for reference as well. So yeah, I can see it on the screen now.
Okay. Looking at this document, can you tell us what this is?
Oh, those are the statements, the under oath statements provided and supporting documentation related to the termination of Mr. Rosario.
If you're seeing that, then I'm sharing the wrong document.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Bear with me.
Yeah, you are, because I mean, I have you had my actual decision up at first. I think when you hit the button, it switched.
Okay. Let's see. What about now? Am I showing the right document?
You are. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm sorry about that. So can you tell us, can you kind of just walk us through, how did you make the decision to uphold the termination of Miguel Rosario?
Yeah, so first, I like to review all of the documents. And so I review, again, some of the things that you showed, the background documents and things of that nature. And then just kind of looked at the findings of fact as well as information that was provided during the review. So in general, Mr. Rosario and the supporting documents highlighted the incidents on November 3rd, in which, he did not want to work based on COVID-19. I think over the next 2 days, he did not return to work and did not have approval to do so. We had a conversation in general about I allowed both he and the city staff to give input, into whether that was allowed or not, whether there was an understanding of working conditions and requirements for which Mr. Rosario confirmed and adhered to. And one of the things that was brought up, which kind of solidified my decision, was that he mentioned that he did not necessarily want to continue working for Augusta, and that he understood all of these findings of fact to be true, but he would have, in hindsight, rather offered his resignation prior to termination and not participating in those 2 consecutive days without approval. And so hearing from him that he confirmed those findings of fact, I mean, I think that weighed very heavily on my decision. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Administrator. I don't have any further questions for this witness at this time.
Okay. That works. Is that it?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And for the record, I would like to tender into evidence Exhibit A, which is the administrator's decision regarding the termination. I'm sorry.
Without objection.
Thank you. The employer will call it second witness, and I'm gonna stop sharing.
Excuse me,
The
I'm
second
sorry. I
wit-
need to cut you off.
Yes,
I have a question. So I don't get to rebut what he said as far, or ask him any questions as far as what he stated, because that statement, that last statement that he said is false. As far as me saying that I admitted, or I was aware of the situation. I said I didn't admit, or I did not agree with the first day of when I did leave and refused to go to work on my post. That I did not admit to. I admitted to the not coming to work the next 2 days.
I think if you look at, and we can, I mean, I think the chairman, he was asking you, and I know that you may not be familiar with these hearings, but once I do the direct examination, if you do have any questions, and I guess that would be your opportunity to cross-examine. I don't know if y'all want to call the witness back in, but if you look at the document, and I'll share it again for the screen, where it talks about the facts. If you go to, this is the document, this is the administrative decision, and I think it's fact number 2. You reported to work on November 3rd, 2020, but left prior to the beginning of your shift because you did not want to work the post to which you were assigned, administrative segregation. Your reluctance to work this assignment was due to the fact that there were positive COVID-19 inmates housed in the unit. So I think, so based on that, do you not dispute that you did show up for work, but you left prior to your shift because
Right.
you had an issue with that?
I just wanted to be clear, because of the way he said it is not the way it is written.
Okay.
That's noted.
Okay, so employer will call its second witness, Sergeant Sylvester Giddens.
You can have a seat right here.
Hello, Mr. Giddens. Will you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, Mr. Giddens. For the record, can you please state your full name?
Sylvester Theron Giddens,
And Sergeant Giddens, where do you work?
Richmond County Correctional Institution.
And how long have you been employed with the Richmond County Correctional Institution?
15 years.
Excuse
And
me,
what is
excuse me, can you speak up, sir?
I'm sorry, 15 years.
Okay. And what is your current position?
I'm a sergeant on the first shift.
And are you familiar with the former employee, Miguel Rosario?
Yes, I am.
And are you familiar with a particular incident that occurred on November 3rd, 2020, where Mr. Rosario reported to work, but later left without authorized leave?
Yes.
Can you describe to us today what knowledge you have of that incident?
On that day, he was given the post of admin seg. There's several officers that he works with on the West End, so we rotated out. Upon getting that assignment, he told me he's not working admin seg, he's not risking his life. I told him that we have protective West End, and everybody else has to do. It's not fair for you not to take the post when everybody else has to take the post. He says, well, if I gotta do it, then I'd rather go back home. I said, so you do what you think you need to do.
And so when you stated, did you ever state to Mr. Rosario that he could go home?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And to be clear for the record, Were you giving Mr. Rosario permission to go home that day on November 3rd, 2020, when he did not want to work in administrative segregation?
No, ma'am.
I have no further questions for this witness at this time.
Sir?
That's a question.
Yeah, you're free to go.
Well, employer would like to call its third witness, Lieutenant Lewis.
I'm sorry, who is the third witness?
Lieutenant Lewis.
Lieutenant Lewis, okay.
Yes.
Lieutenant Lewis. You get the big chair.
Hello, Lieutenant Lewis. Can you
Hey,
please?
how you doing, ma'am?
I'm doing well. How are you? Can you please
All
raise your
right.
right hand?
Okay,
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Lieutenant Lewis. Lieutenant Lewis, for the record, can you please state your full name?
Excuse me?
I'm sorry, for the record, can you please state your full name?
Travis J. Lewis.
And Lieutenant Lewis, where do you currently work?
I work at ARCCI as the road supervisor.
And how long have you been employed with RCCI?
18 years.
And are you familiar with the former RCCI employee, Miguel Rosario?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you familiar with, I guess, 2 days in November of 2020, that would be November 4th and November 5th, where Mr. Rosario contended that he was on leave?
Yes, I'm familiar with those days. He was not on leave.
I'm gonna share some documents with you to see if you've ever seen these documents and if you could explain them. Sorry, I'm having an issue. Well, I'm sorry, I'm having an issue with sharing a couple of documents, but can you explain to us, how does requesting annual leave or vacation leave work at RCCI?
Yes, ma'am, I have right here. Okay. At the beginning of each year, I do what you call a leave forecast. This is a forecast, and the officers tell me what days they want, and I put them on this forecast. Okay. They tell me what day they want to take leave, and I put it on the forecast. They give me this form. This is the form Mr. Rosario gave me saying what day he want to take leave. And I post this to this form here. And then when it get close to the date that they want to take leave, they have to come and do what you call a leave request form for me to approve for them to go on leave.
Okay. And to your knowledge, Mr. Rosario did not submit any requests for vacation leave on November 4th, 2020 and November 5th, 2020.
No, ma'am.
And to your knowledge, did Mr. Rosario, based on the calendar or the schedule, did he have any reason to believe that he was on vacation
No.
leave or annual leave?
No, ma'am. For the month of November, he didn't have any vacation scheduled. He would have had it scheduled. It would have been on this form.
Okay. And I want to share a document. If you all can bear with me for 1 second, I'm having an issue. Okay. Do you
Right. I see that form.
Okay, you see it now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me see if I can blow it up. Can you describe to the board and everyone what this form represents?
Okay, that form is when we put all the road personnel in the building. We broke them down and we put them on shift, first, second, and third shift. And if they wanted to take leave, I actually put it on this sheet for the shift supervisors to know who wanted to take leave and when. I went that extra mile so the shift supervisors know who wanted to take leave and when. And also I actually worked with the officers on which shift they wanted to work on. So if he was scheduled for leave, it would have definitely been on that form right there also.
And if you look under the first shift, I guess you will see it says Officer Rosario. Is that Mr. Miguel Rosario?
Yes, ma'am.
And so there's nothing by his name, so that means he wouldn't have been on leave?
Right, no leave scheduled for that time frame.
Okay. I would like to tender this document as Exhibit C into evidence.
Yes, ma'am.
Without objection, that's fine.
Thanks. I have no further questions for this witness.
Okay.
Excuse me. I just got one thing to say. That document, so he says that they did that right before we went on shift. So if you guys actually look at my leave forms or my record, I actually went on leave the week before for, I believe it was the Friday and Monday. And I think that form was made after this whole incident, because if that was the case, he should have had those dates down under my name. And if you guys need to, you guys could verify that I did have leave that Friday and Monday, and there was a leave form filled out.
Well, if I may rebut, Mr. Chairman, because I have another document for if I need to refute
For
that.
the witness?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Lieutenant Lewis, I'm going to show you another document.
Okay. Yeah, that's the document that Officer Rosario, he submitted to me, what days he wanted to take leave on.
Okay.
For the year of 2020.
Okay, and so if you look at this document, if you go down to November, well, just looking at this document, if you look at the top, I guess it says officer submitted to supervisor. Whose handwriting is that? Do you know?
That's my handwriting, say officer submitted to supervisor, but where it say Officer Rosario, that's his handwriting.
Okay. And so if you go down to November, which is the month at issue, November 2020, I don't see any circles or any marks. What does that mean?
That means he didn't request any vacation for the month of November.
Okay. I would like, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't have any further questions for this witness.
Did somebody in the boardroom have something?
Yeah, Chair, I'd like to know how much lead time has he having approved?
Tom, I can't hear you.
Did he have any vacation time or sick time accrued? During this,
Yes, I had vacation time.
he had none?
No, I did have vacation time accrued, sir.
How much time did you have?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. I want to say it was probably like close to 40 hours. Also, I don't know if this is relevant,
Well,
but
Mr. Rosario, the city's still presenting their case.
Well,
okay.
I just have one follow-up question for Lieutenant Lewis, based on the board members' question. Lieutenant Lewis, when it comes to requesting vacation leave or annual leave, even if employees have leave, like how does that work? Do you just get to take the leave when you want to, or do you have to request it, or it needs to be approved?
It has to be requested and approved.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. That's what that form I showed you earlier. That's what this is, a request for leave. That just, so folks just don't walk out and just leave when they get ready. It's a policy. We manage their leave. We manage it.
And why is that important for a facility like RTCI?
Yeah, because the number of personnel we have, we have to man the place 24/7. If people just walk off and leave and go home when they get ready, we couldn't even man the place. We would never be able to man the place.
Okay. I have no further questions for this witness.
Okay.
All right.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry, Lieutenant.
No, that's
Lewis.
fine. Did Ms. Smith, do you have any more? You have any?
I just have one last witness,
Okay.
Warren Joseph,
Okay.
and that will be the employer's last witness.
All right.
Thank you.
While we're waiting, sir, just for the record, so
No,
can't-
no, sir. No, sir. No, sir. Wait, if you'd be so kind to wait for your opportunity. Once the city is presented, then we'll be more than happy to hear from you.
Look straight or
The sound went off on us. That's why I have this going.
Okay, Warren Joseph, if you could raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, Warren Joseph. For the record, can you please state your full name?
Evan Joseph.
And Warren Joseph, where do you work?
I work at the Richmond County Correctional Institution.
And how long have you been employed with RCCI, I guess is what it's referred
I've
to?
been this past December made 31 years.
Okay. And what is your current position?
I'm the warden.
Okay. And how long have you been in that position as the warden?
I've been the warden since 2011.
Okay. And are you familiar with the former RCTI employee, Miguel Rosario?
Yes, I am.
And are you made a decision back late last year to terminate Mr. Miguel Rosario? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to show you a document, Warren Joseph. Have you ever seen this document before?
Yes, ma'am.
And can you describe today for the board what this document is?
That's the recommendation for termination for Mr. Rosario.
Okay. Can you tell us today what led to your decision to terminate Mr. Rosario's employment?
Yes. So in reaching my decision, I looked at his previous incidents and this particular incident, the last particular incident specifically. So to be frank, Officer Rosario just have a blatant disrespect and disregard for authorities. So this last particular incident occurred November 4th of last year. The long and short of it was we had 2 inmates that tested positive for the virus. And so we brought all the details in. Mr. Rosario was assigned as a detail officer. So we basically shut down the prison for a 2-week period. And all the detail officers were assigned to various shifts. Mr. Rosario was assigned to A shift. So on the date in question, November 4th, the supervisor gave him his assignment, post assignment, which was the isolation area where the 2 inmates were. And Mr. Rosario blatantly just told him he wasn't gonna work that post. And he eventually told the detail officer that he would just go home. And he left the premises. Not only did he leave, we didn't hear back from him until that Friday. So he was gone that Tuesday, the Wednesday, the Thursday, and did not show up or call until that Friday when he showed back up for work. So we brought him in, questioned him, asked him what happened. Obviously, he said he didn't want to work that post. And then he said the supervisor, which was Sergeant Giddens, told him he could leave. Then asked him, so why didn't you show up for the next two days? He turned and said he thought he was on leave. So we checked with the supervisors, and we have a process in place where each employee has to submit a leave request. None of that was done. We couldn't find no documentation where he was approved to be off. So that was the incident in November. So his prior record, as shows on the screen, in 2017, he received a written reprimand for ND7, which is the same violation. At that time, he failed to present the appropriate leave form when he requested. In 2019, he received a written reprimand for IN1, which is failed to follow a supervisor's instruction. In 2019 of December 17, 2019, he was verbally counseled about the process to submit leave. So, and this was extensive counseling he's had with his supervisor. He constantly been reminded, before you take a leave, you got to make sure you complete the form. I think at one point he said that he can contact his supervisors to get the form, which the secretary also has copies of those forms. So he knows in advance where he should go to get the form. In May of last year, he got into a verbal altercation with a supervisor. I think that the incident was the supervisor was basically telling him where he's going to be assigned to, and he just went off on the supervisor. Heated exchange. It almost got to become physical. Both him and the supervisor were suspended for 2 days. So that's the extent of his disciplinary history. And again, to be frank, like I said earlier, Mr. Rosario has a problem with authority. And in reaching my decision, I consulted the supervisors and again looked at his prior record in reaching my decision. And one other thing I want to also add too, in addition to the disciplinary violation that he's had, he was assigned as a detail officer. We actually had to change him twice from 2 different departments that he was assigned to, because he was not following the instructions of those 2 departments. So again, I looked at the entire history in its totality in reaching my decision.
And I guess my last question for you, Warden Joseph, you pointed out
I can barely hear you.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
My last question for you, you pointed out that Mr. Rosario had a disciplinary record. You talked about that in your testimony just a few minutes ago, but can you just briefly tell us why with this last infraction, where he was absent 3 consecutive days, why did you feel termination was the ultimate way to go?
Right, and again, I looked at his entire history, and in my opinion, I just didn't feel that Mr. Rosario was salvageable. Not only was he undermining the authority of the supervisors, because he blatantly told the supervisor in the presence of another officer that he wasn't going to work that post. And if it was just about the virus, we probably wouldn't be here, but he took it to another level. He left for 2 consecutive days, and he wasn't authorized to be off. And like I said, he's been counseled before about the process to take leave. So this is not anything new to him. He knows the process. So that's why I think, led me to reach my decision. The entire history and the circumstances involving this last incident. And again, 6 months prior, he was suspended for getting into it with a supervisor. So to me, I don't believe he's salvageable. And again, all the supervisors I've consulted with, they have the same feelings as well.
Okay. Thank you, Warren Joseph. And also for the record, I would like to tender, it's labeled as Exhibit B, this document into evidence.
Without objection. Mr. Warden Joseph, I have one quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
The incident in December of 2019, where I believe that's where you counseled him for not adhering to the leave policy. Is that correct?
Now, his supervisor counseled him at that time.
Okay.
December 17th, he was informed.
And that was that essentially the same thing that happened? So what happened in December of 2019, is that essentially the same thing that happened in last November? What exactly did he do in December?
Right, from what the supervisor pointed out, he took leave on the 16th of December, and he didn't complete the required documentation to be off. So essentially it's the same thing, because he's alleging that in November, he thought he was authorized to be off.
Okay.
But he did not complete no leave form then. And on the 16th of December 2019, he did the exact same thing. And he was counseled and reminded that there's a process. And really what the process entails is a checks and balance, because that's what he's alleging here today, because he's saying that he was authorized to be off. We have no documentation of it. So he leaves a paper trail.
And so in other words, so on December 16th, so what you're alleging is on December 16th, what he was counseled for was on December 16th, 2019, he just didn't show up for work, and so
right.
The next day he came in and everybody said, "Where were you yesterday?" And he said, "Well, I thought I was off."
No, this was an approved leave, but he did not complete the paperwork in order to be off. Right.
So you knew he was going to be off on the 16th.
His supervisor did, right.
Okay. I just want to make sure, I would just want to make that clear. Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, can I say something? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Can I say something? I asked a question.
Yes, sir. You got a question, Mr. Atkins? Yes, sir.
Paperwork they give us, on the record.
Sir, I could barely hear you.
We can't hear you, Tom.
On this paperwork that we have, the personnel board members, ND6 and the ND7, which is pages 17 and 18 of 31. It says abusive, absent without approved leave, including failure to call in or report an absence to a supervisor the day the absence begins. And there's one other reference here I wonder. Leaving the assigned work area during regular working hours without permission or until relieved. All right, it sounds like has been counseled about the leave policy. All right, he knows, everybody knows that he works here at the city, knows that you have to let somebody know you're off. And most of the time, you know ahead of time. A few times you come in and you ask for it. And if you as a supervisor deem it necessary and or can do without him, then you can okay it. But he can't just take off and not let nobody know it. And it states very plainly and there's procedure for grievances, discipline, and appeals. So what my question is, has he been absent without approved leave before?
Yes, sir. That one occurred,
it says the first offense is a W, whatever that is. Second offense is an S, I guess that would be a suspension. The third offense would be a T, which would be a termination.
right. He received a written reprimand for ND7 in July of 2017.
I think this was made for the people that work here to let them know what their rights are, and they should know that they have to let somebody know when they're gonna be off. Or they should anyway, according to the things that the paperwork that we're supposed to look at and go by.
Correct.
My name is Bernice Rouse. I have a question. Warden, when they are hired, do they get a copy of this information for their own personal use so that they can go through it?
Yes, they do during the orientation. All employees are afforded the opportunity to given the opportunity to let them know what the process is as far as the leave.
But do they get a copy of this?
Copy of the leave form?
No, a copy of what happens in the event that, is this the bylaws or something?
The policy.
So that's the city's policy, man.
Okay, but do they get a copy of that?
It's online.
Yes, it's online. All the employees have access to that. And during the orientation of new employees, the disciplinary process is explained to each employee.
So they are aware that this information is online.
Yes, ma'am. And during their orientation, they're given that information as well.
Okay, my second question is, he had several reprimands and things, and even though he had violated one of those, he had left previously without permission, you all still felt it was you all felt that he could still work with the personnel, and even though he was he could not work with authority, had a problem with authority, you all kept him on also?
Yes, ma'am. That was early when he first started with us. He started in the department in 2016. And the city of Augusta's policy is progressive. So in 2017, that was his first violation. So we just followed the progressive discipline process regarding that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. With that, I'm gonna go ahead and Ms. Smith, do you have any more witnesses? Or are you finished presenting?
Yes, that was the employer's last case, so our case has closed.
All right, with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and let Mr. Rosario. Mr. Rosario, are you ready to present your side, please, sir?
I'm good.
Yes, sir.
Okay, at this time, Ms. Smith, would you swear in Mr. Rosario?
Yes, Mr. Rosario, may you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Rosario, do you have any witnesses, or do you have any statements to refute what the city has just alleged?
I just got a couple of things I wanted to say as far as the statements that the witnesses made. For example, that incident that happened back in 2017. I used to work in the building. I was working as a corrections officer inside the building. And in that situation, I had called in sick, and I spoke to the acting supervisor. And because I didn't speak with the actual supervisor, that's why I got written up for that situation. And I actually had gone down to HR and brought my phone records to them and showed them, that I had called in, because they were saying that I never called in to the facility. I had showed HR the records that I had called in, and what HR told me was, well, you already signed the reprimand, so we can't do anything about it. That was that incident back in 2017. As far as the other incident, they keep harping on the fact that I didn't call, that I didn't come into work. The way Mr. Joseph was making it seem like was like if I was saying, oh, I was supposed to be on leave. No, I actually wrote a statement saying that I mistakenly thought I was only supposed to be on leave, but I wasn't, that it was my fault. I took full responsibility of not coming in those 2 days. But prior to that, the situation with Sergeant Giddens, he did tell me to go home. I told him, and what I stated was I didn't feel comfortable working, that area. And I felt like all they were doing was putting all the road officers in the areas where all the COVID units were at. And they weren't putting the officers that were originally assigned to work in the building. And when I stated that, he said, well, then go home then. He did not say, well, do what you got to do. He said that after, when I talked to the warden called him, he had him on speakerphone, and that's what he said that he told me. And then I just wanted to address the reason why I got terminated, which was the ND7. Like Mr., I'm not sure what his name is, but he was talking about how for 1 day it's like a written reprimand, 2 days is termination, and 3 days, 3 consecutive days of no call, no show is termination. I had 2 days of consecutive no call, no shows. I came to work that first day. And like I said, he told me to go, but it's going to be my word against his, whatever he says. But if you still want to look at it, I still actually physically came to work. It's not like I did not show up. So really, I only had two days, no call, no shows. So according to the regulation, it says that that's supposed to be a suspension, not a termination. When I brought that up to the HR, they said to me in the last hearing that it's up to the discretion of the warden, that they don't have to go by the regulation. So my question is, why do we have the regulation if he doesn't have to go by that? But like I said before, I said it in the beginning, and I stated it before this hearing. I'm not trying to go back to work there. I mean, there's a lot of things that I don't agree with, how they run things. One more thing that I wanted to say. When I got terminated, Lieutenant Lewis told me that, he recommended for me to get suspended, and it was the warden's decision to terminate me. I wanted to ask him about that when he was speaking, but I guess we weren't allowed to talk. I wasn't allowed to talk to the witnesses.
Well, I believe, sir, I believe he did answer that. The question was asked, why. The warden was asked why he decided to terminate you, and he testified that based on your entire history, that's why he said what he said. That's why he decided. That's why he decided that.
Right. So
So
basically, I'm sorry.
So let me ask you, Mr. Judge, Mr. Rosario, let me ask you a question real fast.
Yes, sir.
I'll open up to the floor. So the day that you showed up for work and weren't comfortable in dealing with COVID positive inmates, and I understand because in my field I deal with this every day. So I do understand your concerns. What do you feel like you were justified in just once you found out your assignment, you felt like you were justified? If you weren't comfortable, then you were justified to go home with no sanction.
The supervisor told me I can go home.
But do you think he was telling you, my question is this, do you honestly think he was telling you you could go home and kind of do whatever you wanted to do? In other words, you can go home, but I can't tell you there's not going to be a sanction. I deal with this every day. And I can't tell you what to do. What I'm saying is I can't tell you, understand, I can't tell you you have to be there, but there was agreement between you and the city, and that was your scheduled day to work. You got there, you weren't comfortable. The city said, this is when you agreed to do it. Did you? And so the city then if they say, well, you got to do what you got to do, or you go home or whatever, did you think that there was not going to be any sanction or repercussion from the decision that you made to go home?
After I didn't know when I didn't show up after, yes. But if I would have just went home and would have came back to work the next day, since he told me I could have went home, I didn't think that it would have been, unless he changed the story, which he did.
So then why didn't you come back the next day? Out
of frustration, and like I said, I I thought that at first I thought I wasn't supposed to be there. I didn't get no calls from anybody. Nobody called me talking about, oh, where you're at or why you're not here until like the second day. But I mean, and another thing was like they were forcing not just me, but basically other officers to do something that wasn't even part of my job description. I mean, I was hired to do a certain job, but they were basically forcing me to go inside and do a different job.
Does anybody have anything?
Question.
I have a go ahead, Gwen.
Oh, I'm sorry. I let you go first.
Mr. Rosario, I have a question. I know that you have to put in for leave or vacation or what have you. Now, my question is, since you you didn't feel comfortable to work in that area, did you not think or did you not consider putting in for leave so that you wouldn't have to work? Or did you request to work in another area? Did you do any of these things?
I did express myself and I told him that I didn't feel comfortable working that area, but he refused to move to give me a different assignment. That's why I said I rather, if I have to work that area, I'd rather go home.
So so my question is, did you not consider putting in a leave? I know there's a process to do, but if you have filled out a leave form, do you think that you would be sitting where you are now or what?
Probably not. Should have thought about it better. And I should have probably put in the leave form.
Yes, okay. That's my question. Thank you.
I have a question, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Rosario, how far in advance are you told what your work assignment will be per day?
That morning, ma'am, when we come in. Like I said, I'm a road detail supervisor. That job that they were having me do is a corrections officer job. If you look at my job description, those are two totally different jobs. I take the inmates out and we do work outside. And another thing, if you look at my file and you see my work performance evaluations, matter of fact, I just got one that November and it was an excellent evaluation. Everything was excellent. But, they say something different, but the paperwork, if you actually look at the paperwork, they're saying that I'm an outstanding officer.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Anybody else?
Say one more thing. And on his behalf, they did not follow through with the domestic policy, because in several places in here, it tells them if this many times you do this, or this many times you do this. This is in this paperwork that we give us, like in number 3, habitual tardiness, unscheduled absence 6 or more days in a 180-day period, absenteeism, and abuse of leave period. I mean, that's one of the things in that area that I'm reading off of here. It come out of the HR department back there. So they didn't follow completely through with their what they're supposed to be doing, because we wouldn't be here, I don't believe, if they had. So I just wanted to make that known that there are things in here that say that you can't just be not here without letting somebody know.
Mr. Chairman, can I just respond to that, to clarify that issue brought up by the personnel board member?
Yes, go ahead.
The personnel board member, he is correct that there is in our policy a chart, which are guidelines about how to follow the progressive discipline matrix with respect to the policy, as the warden stated, and I think it is true. I think Mr. Rosario does not dispute this, that Augusta has a progressive discipline policy, but the table still is like guidelines. And in the cases where you have employees who have had multiple like disciplinary infractions, and also in this case with Mr. Rosario, it was 3 consecutive times. He committed those infractions 3 times from November 3rd to November 5th. So that played a part in the warden's decision to termination. Because I do understand what the board member is saying about the second offense for that, I believe it's ND7, but as I don't think anybody disputes that it happened 3 times in a row consecutively. And so obviously he wasn't gonna get 3 disciplinary letters. Like that wouldn't have been practical, but the warden and HR, I think, took into consideration that he committed those infractions 3 times in November. Because for just doing it one day, that he would be subject to the infraction, which if he had did it only that one time, then maybe it would be a suspension. But he did it 3 times, so that had to be considered.
So what you're saying is that the first day is considered a no-call, no-show, even though I physically was at work and clocked in?
My understanding is based on what the testimony, and not obviously just being in the counsel for the employer, ND7 states absence without approved leave, including failure to call in or report an absence to a supervisor the day the absence begins. I think the problem was the absence without approved leave. You showed up for work November 3rd, but then you left for the whole entire shift. You were absent and it was not approved leave. And I know you dispute what Mr. Giddens stated to you, but I think it's clear from his testimony when he said go home or do whatever you want to do, that was not giving you permission to leave that day for your assigned post. So yes, the first day, to my knowledge, at November 3rd, it was still absence without approved leave. Like even if you leave half a day, like you may show up half a day for work, but then if you don't come back after lunch, that's absence without approved leave.
So basically what you're saying is whatever he said on his statement trumps whatever I said that he said, right?
No, I'm just explaining, you asked the question and I wanted to provide clarity to you and the board with respect to the first day, November 3rd. No one disputes that you did show up for work, but then you subsequently left. And so you were absent the majority of your shift day and it was not approved. No one gave you, based on the testimony that we heard today, and it's the employer's position, no one gave you approval to leave that day when you decided you were unhappy with your shift assignment.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
To Mr. Rosario, I believe I heard you state that you was a supervisor and that your assigned task for that day was not in your job description. And I just want to know, as a supervisor, are you not familiar with moving your resources around to accomplish the mission? That was
sorry, were you asking me a question?
Yes, that was the question.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear it. It was breaking up. I couldn't hear you.
I believe I understood you to say that you was a supervisor and that your task for that day was not in your job description. As a supervisor, I believe that you should know that you move your resources around to accomplish the mission. I guess a better way to explain what I'm trying to say is, even though it may not have been your job description that day to go to where you was assigned, but the overall mission comes first.
Yes, sir.
Anybody got anything else? Without that, having said that, I think we'll go ahead and move to a close. Ms. Smith, go ahead and briefly summarize your case for us.
Okay. Thank you everyone for your time and patience this afternoon. I think it's clear from the testimony that you've heard from Augusta, Georgia staff and also the former employee, Mr. Rosario, that there's some clearly undisputed facts. Number one, Mr. Rosario does not dispute that he did show up for work on November 3rd. He was not happy with his assignment. He didn't feel like it was a part of his job duties, and he left. Although he disputes what Sergeant Giddens meant when he said that he could go home, I think it's pretty clear based on the testimony of Sergeant Giddens, based on the testimony of Warden Joseph, that Mr. Rosario did not have permission to leave his assigned post that day on November 3rd when he was unhappy with his assignment. On top of that, as you've heard today, RTCI is a correctional institution. So it defies logic to think that Mr. Rosario, a supervisor, would think that he could just show up for work one day, not be happy about an assignment during a pandemic, and thinking it's okay to just go home. Also, another undisputed fact is Mr. Rosario has made it clear that the other 2 days at issue, November 4th, 2020 and November 5th, 2020, Mr. Rosario does not dispute that he just didn't show up for work. He stated in his opening that he let his anger get the best of him, that he didn't show up out of frustration is what he stated in his testimony just a few minutes ago. So it's clear that Mr. Rosario made a conscious decision after he was upset about his assignment November 3rd, that he just was not going to show up for work on November 4th and November 5th. On top of all that, it's undisputed that Mr. Rosario, whose tenure with Augusta, Georgia RTCI, starting from May 2016, which has not been necessarily a long time, but he's been disciplined at least 4 times prior to his termination. So looking at the totality of the situation, I think it's very clear when you're working for an institution, such as a correctional institution, the Richmond County Correctional Institution, and you're a supervisor, if you think it's okay to just leave work because you don't like the assignment the next morning, and then out of anger and frustration, just not show up for work the next 2 consecutive days, on top of the fact that he had a prior disciplinary issue, and all of that supports what the testimony of what Warden Joseph indicated, is that Mr. Rosario had an issue being insubordinate. I don't think anybody disputed that Mr. Rosario may actually be a good officer, but when you're running a correctional facility, you clearly need employees, particularly supervisors, who respect authority rules, who understand flexibility, who can't just not show up for work for 3 consecutive days because they're angry or they're frustrated about what's going on at work. So, in light of that, I think it's clear that Mr. Rosario's termination was warranted, and the employer respectfully requests that you uphold the termination of Mr. Miguel Rosario. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Mr. Rosario, you can summarize your close.
I don't have nothing to say. Thank you.
Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move.
I make a motion, we go into executive session.
I've got a motion. We enter executive session.
Second.
Second. Hearing no objection, I move we're in executive session. I think they'll come and he'll put us in the other deal.
They got to put us in another mode.
Yep, he does.
So are you go text him or something?
Okay, you're gonna join the breakout.
Where are we?
The breakout room.
Now, the thing is, okay, if you want to get rid of the part-time, it shouldn't be that hard. The job is no longer needed. Why I gotta do it? Why I gotta do a layoff and I'm just laying off every 4 5 hours? If I'm not mistaken, I think they think that the budget, yeah. I think they can get up to 60 hours. Yeah, 2 weeks. So that means, so that means they get $1,000. That's 30 hours. That's 30 hours.
Where are we at? We in the breakout room?
Yeah, I'm about to join you guys right now.
There we go. All right, I got one. There you go.
Yay.
Yeah, we did it. Okay. I guess that's all we had to do. He never sent me
And
back.
others.
We gotta get everybody else, I guess.
Well, there we are. We're all here.
We're starting to roll in.
JR is not here again.
It's going to take JR until next June to figure this one out. It took him that long.
Hey, Mr. Barbie. Mr. Barbie.
Yes, sir.
Hey, this Bonds, Ken Bonds. I'm part of the board. I heard you say I'm part of IT. I'm part of the board.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Bonds. Yeah, I apologize.
It's all good.
Well, where the guys in the room?
I don't know. We always lose somebody.
Well, somebody's going to have to actually go over there and help those guys. I can guarantee you that.
Okay,
Okay,
now
they're there.
Oh, there
everybody's
goes.
back.
Boardroom. Now, like I said,
Everybody's
JR.
Oh,
There's
yes.
JR made it.
Yeah, I can
JR,
see.
now JR is, oh, there he is. I was gonna say you
JR
were
made it. Okay. All right. Is
Here, I'll make that motion.
everybody here? Do we want to go ahead and make a motion? Somebody want to make a motion?
I make a motion that
No,
that we uphold. I make a
we
motion.
gotta make a motion to come out of executive session first.
Oh, I make a
Come out
motion.
of
We come out of the executive section.
I need a second.
Second.
We got
I second.
second that.
Without objection, the board is now out of executive session. I will now entertain a motion. I will now entertain a motion on to uphold or overturn the city's termination.
I make a motion that we uphold the city determination.
I need a second.
I second.
Any objection? Hearing none, it will be unanimous that we will uphold the city's recommendation for termination. Make a motion that
I move that we adjourn.
I've got a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I got a second. We adjourn. Hearing no objection, we are adjourned. Thank y'all all very much. I appreciate it.
Good seeing you all. Stay
Good to
safe
see y'all.
now.
See y'all
Yes.
soon. Stay safe. Wear a mask.
Bye-bye.
All
Bye-bye.
right.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Until the next time.
Okay. I've done just about every kind of job in my life. Been in the military. I've been in the military. I worked for the city. Worked for the phone company 30-something years. Own my own business. I mean, I'll go on about that, but I knew what I had to do. I went through the system.